For as long as people have called this place home, they've been welcomed with clean air, clean water, and an abundance of nature. As time went on, people saw the need to balance how we build cities with how we protect farms and forests. That's why across Greater Portland, in 24 cities and 3 counties, there's one Metro government that brings us all together to maintain that vital balance, to provide services across cities and counties, to create a better future together. Hello, we're Metro. We plan for housing, jobs, and safe transportation. We protect land, air, and water by managing garbage and recycling. We support arts and culture by overseeing local venues to keep the economy growing. And we connect people to nature across 17,000 acres of parks and trails, and at the Oregon Zoo. Metro is all of us working together, connecting how we live today with how we plan for the future. Hello, we're Metro, and so are you.
Good morning. I'd like to call the Metro Council business meeting for December 14th, 2023 to order. Connor, will you please call the roll for attendance?
Yes, thank you. Councilor Gonzalez.
Present. Good morning.
Good morning. Councilor Lewis.
Present.
Councilor Wong.
Present.
Councilor Rosenthal.
Present.
Councilors Simpson and Nolan are both excused today, and President Peterson.
Here, thank you. And thank you for accommodating me with a full-blown cold. I didn't want to pass it around. All right, Connor, will you please play the safety video for our in-person attendees?
I'm Laura Lepley, a Metro Park Ranger. Here at Oxbow Park, safety is our #1 priority, not only for our guests, but for our staff members. I'm at the Welcome Center and you're at the Regional Center. The council chambers are located on the 3rd floor. In the event of a fire or fire alarm, please exit through the door in the northeast corner of the room. Go down the stairway to the 2nd floor, exit through the main entrance by the reception desk, and gather in the courtyard outside that entrance. In the event of a medical or fire emergency, please call 911 and notify the security agent at the reception desk. The nearest defibrillator is mounted on the steps leading from the reception desk down to Grand Avenue. Thank you, and come visit us at Oxbow Park.
And thank you once again for everybody who has participated in the new safety videos. It's much appreciated. Safety is always on our minds when we want to make sure we have a safe space for people to be able to testify, as well as for a safe space to make sure that we all know what to do in the case of an emergency. So thank you. We'll now open our public communication on non-agenda items. Connor, will you please describe to the audience our procedures for the public communication portion of the meeting?
Yes, thank you. So if anyone wishes to testify on non-agenda items, now is the time to do so. Public testimony will be limited to 3 minutes, and I'll manage the timer to go off at the 3-minute mark. If you've not already signed up to speak, you can do so now. If you're joining us on Zoom, you can sign up by hitting the raise hand button, which, depending on your version of Zoom, is either at the bottom of your screen or within the reactions tab. If you're joining us in person, you can sign up by filling out one of the blue cards in the back of the room and bringing that up to me. For those joining on Zoom, I'll bring you up to a full panelist, so I'll call your name. You'll see a window asking you to accept the promotion to a panelist. Once you do so, you'll be able to turn on your camera and unmute yourself. As a reminder to everybody testifying today, you do not need to give your physical address. However, please do identify yourself for the record. For those testifying in person, using the gooseneck mics at the tables up here, you do not need to mute or unmute them. They'll come on automatically, but feel free to move it closer to yourself if needed. So with that, President Peterson, councilors, we have had one person sign up in advance for testimony today. So we have Dashiell Harrison. So Dashiell, feel free to take any of these seats. You'll have 3 minutes, and your time will begin when you begin speaking.
Good morning, councilors. As the council heard on Thursday, July 27th, significant increases in wages for Metro employees are urgently needed. Without them, many dedicated workers will be unable to continue to live in the communities that they serve. Metro and LiUNA representatives have now been negotiating for 9 months. During this time, the union has made significant and sometimes painful concessions in the hopes of reaching an agreement that everyone on both sides of the table can be proud of. As of Tuesday of this week, we've been able to reach a conceptual agreement which we believe will serve the interests of both the workers and Oregon Metro as a whole. I'm here today to call on Metro Council to empower your negotiating team to make this conceptual agreement into a real one and allow us to bring this lengthy bargaining process to a mutually beneficial conclusion. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Want to appreciate you coming into council and continued good faith in negotiating. We are aware that our bargaining table is actively reviewing and costing the current proposal. And we too have been encouraged by the progress made in recent weeks, and we share your desire to come to an agreement. So thank you again for your time today. And we look forward to seeing you again with an agreement. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Connor?
I don't see any other hands going up. President Peterson, we haven't had anybody sign out besides Daschle.
And nobody running forward in the room?
Nobody.
Okay, thank you. With that, we will close the public communication on non-agenda items. Thank you so much. We'll move on to our consent agenda. Would anybody else like to read the consent agenda for today for me?
Sure. Today's consent agenda consists of 5 items. Item 3.1, consideration of November 9, 2023 council meeting minutes. 3.2, consideration of November 16, 2023 council meeting minutes. 3.3, resolution 235368 for the purpose of reappointing 4 members to the Metro Affordable Housing Bond Oversight Committee. Resolution 235369 for the purpose of reappointing 5 members to the Supportive Housing Services Regional Oversight Committee, and item 3.5, resolution 235370 for the purpose of appointing members to the Committee on Racial Equity, known as CORE.
Thank you so much, Councilor Lewis. Do I have a motion?
Can I move approval of the consent agenda, President Peterson?
Thank you. Is there a second? Thank you. It's been moved by Councilor Gonzalez and seconded by Councilor Rosenthal. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Hearing none, the motion passes. Thank you, everybody. All right. We will move on to our resolution of the day. This is a big milestone, councilors and staff. Thank you so much for getting us here. Last year, of course, we had a great budget conversation that led us to this point of trying to put context to our budget and be able to put priorities to our budgeting process. As you recall, we then directed staff to develop strategic targets in the areas of environment, economy, and housing to guide our work over the next 5 years. Staff and the council have done a great work in terms of work sessions on the development of targets at our October 3rd and October 19th meetings. And we also held public town halls on October 12th to hear firsthand from stakeholders. That meeting was well attended, and we heard from community members about the targets, their relevance, and where they could be improved. Since then, staff has been hard at work figuring out the details and working to incorporate council's direction, as well as the public input. Today, staff is here before us with resolution number 23-5362, which will move us to the next phase of developing these targets. Just a quick also aside, the targets are 5 to 10 year. I think we have to decide yet with each one what we're aiming for and how we're going to get there. But this was in lieu of a 50-year big strategic plan review of our 2040, which we will get to at some point. But in the meantime, coming out of COVID, there's a big difference between visioning for 50 years and being able to move forward a budget with priorities. So thank you, Marisa, and all of the work by staff in the council office and all over the agency to get us to this point. I'll turn it over to Marisa.
Thank you, President Peterson, and good morning, councilors. Thank you for level setting, President Peterson. I'm really happy to be at this milestone in the project, and my thanks as well to staff and stakeholders who have contributed to this work. Before you today is Resolution 235362, which is a resolution to adopt the strategic targets at a high level. Today we've brought forward this high-level resolution, which includes the title and description of each target. These are items that we have agreement on amongst council and stakeholders, but more importantly, this resolution gives staff direction to move forward with this work and acknowledges that more work is needed before we further refine outcomes or actions connected to the targets. What this resolution signifies is the values that Metro Council and members of the region have articulated and directs staff to move into the next phase of this work. If Metro Council adopts the resolution today, you'll be giving staff additional direction to further refine key regional metrics, develop work plans and communications plans, and start to figure out what can be done, excuse me, and what is needed to make meaningful progress. Oh, got a throat tickle, pardon me.
All good, all good.
This will, of course, come back to council for additional direction and decision-making during the budget process. We're excited to move this into the next phase and really get into the details and that where the rubber meets the road, the operationalizing, so we can figure out the brass tacks of what progress toward these goals looks like. So today we have members of the project task force here to answer any additional questions that you have. Val Galstad, Ina Zucker, and Andrea Celentano. If there are any questions.
I'm sorry, is there a presentation at all?
There is no presentation.
Okay, thank
Just the
you.
resolution.
Thank you. Counselor Lewis.
Sure, thank you so much. I'm really excited that we are where we're at. I think we started this process last budget season with the expectation that we were going to have this in time for our current budget process that's already begun. I think we're squeaking in right under the deadline there, so good work on that. My only concern is that we're passing a resolution today that's accompanied by a staff report that is still lacking in specifics and that crispness that I think we've asked for. And I guess I'm wondering what the timeline is to get that kind of one pager that is public ready.
Thank you for the question, Councilor Lewis. I think our goal, the resolution is still very general, which is correct, and in order to get the communications plan that you talked about, Juan's talked about, something that is more crisp, something that is, that can be incorporated into sort of a diagram, as Councilor Simpson wanted, is sort of that crisp messaging. We need some more, we need communications professionals to help us with that. That is not the strength of the three folks sitting in front of you. We know it's on our list of things to do. The resolution is very general in nature because you have to empower the COO to start having budget directors and incorporate the targets into the budget that they're working on right now. And then it will come back to you and you'll see more specifics. At the same time, we'll get our communications team working on a strategy that will make it more understandable and easier to comprehend as opposed to the current resolution, which is, as you pointed out, super general.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that we are here with timeliness because primarily this is a budget tool. But then if we're gonna use it in passing the budget and point to our values, we need that. So, thank you.
If I could add to that, Deputy Council President, in the process of developing these high-level targets, my team went through them with the lens of, can we see our operations connecting the dots between this high-level target and an action that we control? And I think, the majority, if not almost all of them, we were able to find like a direct connection where we can actually, articulate, we will take an action at Metro and it will result in this. And so, but that was like a screen just to make sure that we're, starting this iterative process with material that is accurate and relevant. But then there's that deeper level of work that will actually go into, okay, how do we actually fund a program or fund resources to achieve these things in the cases where we're not already doing some of that work. Does that make sense?
Thank you. Counselor Gonzalez Rosenthal.
Thanks, President Peterson. Yeah, I mean, I think like just reviewing the materials, I feel like it would have been definitely nice to have a presentation for today, but I know that we reviewed a lot of materials. I'm going off of the materials that we've seen in past work sessions and things like that. And in that, I want to, affirm the appreciation and the refinement and, you know, the really hard work to really split hairs. And Marisa, I'm really happy to hear from you too that, you know, it's not just these goals that will, you know, sit on a shelf, but that there's like a direct, tangible connection that can be operationalized. So there's a lot of work that has been going on. And I mean, just to kind of echo the comments of Councilor Lewis, I mean, for a process that has been so substantive, yeah, just would have been, I think, nice to have maybe a one-pager PDF or something like that to celebrate, I guess, but no questions in terms of what we've actually created. That's it for me.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Rosenthal and then Huang.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First of all, I want to concur with Deputy President Lewis that these are, well, there's been a lot of work going in to develop these, and we've focused on 3 particular areas, and I think that that's very important. But I think the next step is they're putting real specific actions and specific strategic things to it. I realize that that's not the time for this, but I guess it says that there's a lot of work that the council still has to do over the course of preparing the budget for the next year. So I appreciate that, and I look forward to putting a little bit sort of meat on the bones here.
Thank you. Counselor Huang.
Oh, great, thank you. I guess I concur with all the previous statements, but you know, from speaking with our DEI department, we understand in the coming months we'll also be undertaking an update on the strategic plan to advance racial equity, diversity, and inclusion. And you know, this strategic document was kind of based on that previous work, but we're updating the new plan. So I'm wondering, have you thought about how the 2 processes might intersect and build upon each other? You know, obviously we don't want to do strategic targets on one hand and racial equity on the other hand. So as we're thinking through specific targets and, you know, what our new update to that plan might look like, how might staff, which...
I got it. Thank you so much for the question. You know, I think that's part of the reason that we wanted to keep the resolution level relatively general, because diving into the refinement and the specifics of each individual metric and what that like operationalization looks like is going to require quite a lot of collaboration across the organization, but including with the DEI team. So I really see this as an iterative process that's going to be developed as we develop and refine the budget. So over the next 6-7 months. And we'll be coming back to you, you know, throughout that budget process, talking about the progress with that. And we're happy to have more conversations with the DEI team about their process and how we can incorporate, because to your point, we absolutely don't want to have these like 2 siloed plans that aren't speaking to one another. I see them as sort of different layers of what I hope is the same framework and is all nesting up into our strategic framework.
Yeah, now, I don't want to speak for council, but I think that's our hope probably too, is not to have them be separate, but it's great. Do you have a timeline on, and I know Sabrina's not here, but like what the timeline is for the new strategic plan update on DEI?
So that work is beginning. We're trying to do an assessment of the previous plan and sort of assess where the previous plan had positive impacts, take that information and then roll that into an update. And I think, you know, the work that we've done so far shows that having a strategic plan really did change things. It changed people's decision-making process. Sure, it changed who was at the table. And so we want to continue to build out that work. The other thing that I'll add is, you know, we intentionally have nested these targets within the strategic framework for Metro, that Build Back Better, and keep our promises. And, you know, one of the guiding principles in that framework is racial justice and racial equity. And so I think, these are, at the end of the day, the update to our strategic plan for racial equity and the strategic targets will be complementary and not in conflict and kind of woven together.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no other hands raised, I just want to add my thanks to all of this. It is an important milestone to get to this point, and it took a lot of outreach to get here, a lot more than we had originally thought, and it's much appreciated for everybody who engaged and the work that was done to get that engagement. It doesn't happen overnight, and it doesn't happen without any planning. So just thank you for that. I think the bulk of the work on this project is still ahead of us, but this does at least give us some guidance going into the next budget cycle. And I hope that it's clear to everybody in the region that you have been heard and your thoughts and your views, your perspectives have been included in on this. I look forward to the next phase of the project and really being able to understand what we as Metro can do to move the region forward with meaningful and measurable progress in these 3 areas. So thank you. Councilor Rosenthal.
Just one phrase that always sticks in mind: a good plan begets good actions.
Thank you. All right, seeing no other hands raised, do I have a motion for resolution? Hold on, resolution number 23-5362 for the purpose of adopting Metro strategic targets.
So moved.
I'll second.
Thank you. It's been moved by Councilor Lewis and seconded by Councilor Gonzalez. Connor, will you please call the roll? Unless there's any further discussion, sorry. Nope, seeing none. Connor, will you please call the roll?
Yes, thank you. Councilor Wong.
Aye.
Councilor Rosenthal.
Yay.
Councilor Gonzalez.
Aye.
Councilor Lewis.
Aye.
And President Peterson.
Aye. Thank you, everyone. Motion passes. Appreciate, again, all of the hard work of getting here and Marisa moving mountains to be able to to get us to this point. Cross-cutting strategic goals for an organization that have meaning to every single part of the organization and external stakeholders is a big lift. But I am glad that we have taken on the big lift and are able to start being able to articulate our successes a little bit more carefully and strategically and be able to celebrate them. So as a region. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we will move on to ordinance number 23-1505 for the purpose of amending Metro Code to repeal section 10.03.130 Blue Lake boating restrictions. Councilors, you may recall this matter was elevated to the council before, and at the time we directed staff to engage with the homeowners association out of Blue Lake to agree on a transition plan that addresses potential impacts to residents with lakefront property. Metro staff did that engagement and is now returning to amend the code pertaining to Blue Lake boating restrictions. Here with us today is John Blasher, our Parks and Nature Director for Metro, to present the ordinance and the work that has been done. Thank you. John.
Thank you, Council President Peterson, Metro Councilors, John Blasher, Director of Parks and Nature, Metro's Parks and Nature Department. We're here to request council consideration of ordinance number 23-1505. As President Peterson mentioned, this is looking at Title 10 Code of Metro, which sets forth the regulations governing Metro-owned parks, cemeteries, and natural areas. Adoption of the ordinance will amend Metro Code to remove section 10.0.130 Blue Lake boating restrictions, which restricts public access to boating recreation throughout Blue Lake Regional Park, while allowing access for access to the lake for neighbors. If council adopts the ordinance beginning in 2024, parks visitors will be able to bring canoes, kayaks, and paddle boards to the park to access summer recreation on the lake. You can go to the next slide, please. So every year, Metro staff welcomes more than 300,000 visitors to Blue Lake Regional Park. The park is in the middle of renovations right now, funded by the 2019 Parks and Nature Bond. Our parks planning team is gathering community member insight and ideas for renovation. Leading up to the 2019 bonds, community members told us they wanted greater access to water. We have that opportunity to act on that community priority at Blue Lake. So take a step back and understand a little bit more of the park's context and how we got here. Blue Lake sits in Fairview near the southern shoreline of the Columbia River, a few miles west of the mouth of the Sandy River. Blue Lake is now hydrologically isolated from the Columbia River, but before the levees were built to protect colonized areas along the river from flooding, the lake and land around it were part of a very dynamic river system. The lake is likely a remnant of a very old river channel. Indigenous communities have lived here since time immemorial, fishing, hunting, and gathering along the Columbia and the Sandy Rivers. We're engaging with tribal governments and local indigenous communities to plan Blue Lake Regional Park's renovations. Through those conversations, we're seeking to better understand how to support indigenous community members and tribal governments in the ongoing connection of the place that is now Blue Lake Park. Go to the next slide, please. So a little snippet of some of the history of Blue Lake as a park. Its time began when it was developed as a private park in 1925. And in the 60s, Multnomah County purchased it, the private park, and opened a county park. In 1994, Multnomah County transferred Blue Lake Park, along with the Expo Center and some of its other parks, natural areas, and historic cemeteries, to Metro. The county's parks rules were transferred along with the parks, including the section of Metro Code pertaining to boating restrictions on Blue Lake. Next slide, please. So in this ordinance, we're requesting to repeal this section that you see on the screen before you because it's outdated, it's inequitable, and it's inconsistent with how we regulate and operate our other parks facilities. The existing code section applies different rules to different communities, contributing to an inequitable access to water. It restricts access to boating on Blue Lake for members of the public while granting lake neighbors an exception. During the summer season, which we call from between May 1st to September 30th, the public is prohibited from accessing the lake to launch any watercraft, motorized or non-motorized, which includes canoes, kayaks, and paddleboards. The code includes an exception for watercraft rented from the park, and in the past years, paddle boats and canoes could be rented from a concessionaire, but rentals were discontinued due to aging facilities at the dock, COVID, and other operational challenges. During the winter season, October 1st through April 30th, non-motorized watercraft and motorized watercraft are allowed, but they must adhere to certain size and horsepower restrictions. The code exempts lakeshore residents from these seasonal prohibitions and from size and horsepower restrictions. Lakefront neighbors may access a boat ramp within Blue Lake Regional Park to put in and take out their boats year-round, while the public's access to launch watercraft, including use of the ramp, is restricted to October through April. So this results, again, not only in inequitable lake access, but it's inconsistent with Metro's values and community priorities, and it creates differential treatment for neighbors and the general public. Approval of this ordinance will ensure that all members of the public are treated equally with respect to boating access through the park. Next slide, please. Some other pieces about this code section is that it's inconsistent with Parks and Nature's approach to boating rules at other sites. Many parks and nature sites provide access to public bodies of water through a metro park, a boat ramp, boat launch, or natural area. Some of the examples you can see on this map include Oxbow, Farmington, Chinook Landing, Smith and Bybee Wetlands, and others. So this code of section is the only section of Metro Code that articulates boating regulations specific to a site. Approval of this ordinance will remove some outdated code language that's inconsistent with our approach to regulating boating access at other Metro sites. Next slide, please. This map here shows the park. It's highlighted in green and the lake residences in gray. For reference, the current location of the boat ramp used for motorized boats pulled by trailers is shown there about the middle of the park shoreline. Reaching the ramp requires driving on the park's pedestrian pathways to access it. Similar to the rivers, like the Sandy and the Columbia, Blue Lake is a public body of water. There's an alphabet soup of different regulations and jurisdictional authority, but the Oregon State Marine Board has jurisdiction over boating use on the lake, while Metro regulates how people access the lake water through the park. Metro does not have the authority over recreational activities once people are on the lake and in the water. Currently, all Oregon State rules and regulations are in effect on Blue Lake. And as mentioned, the Oregon State Marine Board has that jurisdiction over boating use on the lake, and the Marine Board is aware of these proposed changes to Metro Code and the likely increase of non-motorized use of the lake potentially this summer. Next slide, please. So looking at the transition plan proposed, as directed by Council President Peterson and this council, staff engaged with the Interlochen Homeowners Association representatives to clarify and document mutual understanding related to the regulatory roles of different agencies, and to create better lines of communication between the HOA, Metro, and the state agencies with respect to lake management, water quality, and recreational uses. Metro and the HOA signed a memorandum of understanding in October of 2023 to support a smooth transition for changes to lake access rules and procedures and continued communication between the HOA and Metro. I really want to thank the HOA president, Michael Vest, Erica Tayama, John Whistler, and Kevin Morrell from their side for working with us over quite a bit of time, and also Metro staff like Elena Tarula, Susie Baxter Harwell, and Gary Shepard as we worked on this comprehensive agreement and understanding. So if council approves the ordinance, we anticipate the general public will begin bringing non-motorized watercraft such as canoes, kayaks, and paddleboards starting in the summer of 2024 boating season. This summer will give us an opportunity to monitor how people use the lake with an approach of flexibility and responsiveness, and we'll adjust management of lake access as needed as we better understand the extent and types of use. We'll continue to communicate with the Marine Board on any concerns or conflicts that arise and engage with their experience and expertise to address issues as needed. Next slide, please. And as a little bit bigger context of future opportunities at the lake and through the park, removing restrictions for public access to boating on Blue Lake is an important first step in a bigger effort to improve opportunities to enjoy Blue Lake. The Blue Lake Renovation Planning Project will improve park amenities for boating and other types of recreation on the lake and at the lake. The project's exploring locations for an accessible paddle launch facility, as well as a better location for a boat ramp for emergency, maintenance, and special uses. Approval of ordinance number 23-1505 is an important step to making Blue Lake more accessible to the public and making that access more equitable as well. We'll go to the next slide, and that's it. I'm happy to take any questions that you all may have.
Thank you, John. Much appreciated for going out and doing that intensive community engagement. It's much appreciated. Councilors, any questions? Councilor Lewis.
Sure, thank you, Director Blaster. You mentioned that we're going to keep the State Marine Board apprised of how this works. When we first heard of this issue, there seemed to be a whole lot more confusion on my end about the role of State Marine Board versus Metro regional government. Can you explain a little bit more about the Marine Board and if maybe some of their role was a red herring, or if they do have a role to play here?
Yeah, so as mentioned, the role, Councilor Lewis, thank you. The role of the Marine Board is to regulate what are the types of activities that happen on the lake, what type of boating restrictions there are for size and capacity. In early conversations that we were having with them, it seemed like if we're bringing in more non-motorized boat users and folks on a relatively small lake, that would create a lot of user conflicts, and there was a lot of concern about what that would look like. When we were talking to them, at the time, it seemed like the recommendation was to have only non-motorized boats on there. As we got into deeper conversations, we took a step back based on some miscommunication we were having with this council, with the neighbors. In following conversations with the Marine Board this past summer, staff relayed to us that they're comfortable with exploring what a pilot year or two looks like to better understand how users are going to be out on the lake and where there might be conflicts. Staff told us, Marine Board staff told us that their goal is to have as many people recreating safely as possible on the waters of Oregon. And so we'll be able to take this approach to look at more of what actually happens on the lake and how there's any potential user conflicts and things that we need to navigate. So that's our commitment, and that's where we were at with the Marine Board.
Okay, great, thank you. And in terms of their knowledge about what happens, obviously, complaint-driven system, obviously, we are on the shorelines every day with our staff. The neighbors, obviously, 24/7 are living there. Will they be visiting the site or having any state officials help with monitoring or wrapping their arms around this pilot?
We haven't gotten into specific details about timelines of when the Marine Board would be coming out, but we've committed to working with the neighbors and the homeowners to be in regular and consistent communication, and we'll be out there with signage and doing awareness for guests and visitors and be able to track that. But we can definitely add in more explicitly how we'll be checking in weekly, monthly, quarterly as need be.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
And we'll be engaging them as we develop park-specific rules, operational rules. We have a draft that we'll be circulating with the Marine Board to get their input, because they have a lot of expertise and experience in all of the changes coming with hydrofoils and all types of watercraft. So they'll be a partner in this.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Counselor Rosenthal and then Gonzalez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First of all, I want to thank you, Mr. Belasher, for, first of all, the hard work that your group has done on a somewhat sensitive and somewhat tricky topic over the last course of a couple of years. It's I realize that there's a lot of moving parts, and I also thank you for a great presentation on that. One thing that I missed, I mean, maybe it's just that I missed it. Will the three horsepower allowance during the winter still be in place, or will that be rescinded for public use?
Thank you, Councilor Rosenthal. Good question. I've got the notes right here. At this point, we plan to allow the motorized, as long as watercraft does not exceed 14 feet or 3.0 horsepower from October
October
through
to-
April. So
right.
during the winter season, we'll still have some of those lighter powered watercraft. Then during the summer, the general public will just do non-motorized.
Non-powered, okay.
Yeah.
I just wanted to I wasn't quite clear on that.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Counselor Gonzalez.
Great
Great question.
Great question.
Great question.
Councilor Rosenthal. Really appreciate that. Sorry, I was getting some feedback here. Maybe I unmuted by accident. Well, John, I really just want to affirm that, you know, at the core of this process has been to address a structural equity issue with the lake. And I know that there's you know, a process like this is not easy when, you know, maybe a community feels like they're losing something that they've had. But I think from the work that you've done, from the regular updates that we've seen, from the very well crafted staff report, thank you as always for providing all the history. I think it I just appreciate the way that the work has moved forward, and in support of as the language in the staff report frames it, removing differential treatment depending on, you know, where you live on the lake. You know, I feel the same about you know, golf courses and other kind of, you know, areas where people can kind of take advantage of open spaces and don't allow others to access them in the same way. I just think it's fundamentally inequitable, and I think this is part of a long-term strategy that we've implemented in Parks and Nature. So I just want to affirm that, and I appreciate it. I recognize that because of the difficult nature of this conversation, that there's been you know, conversations that have been strained, especially with HOA and us hearing with them over the past. So I don't want to discount you know, the feelings that we've heard from community members, but you know, I think that ultimately this is the best thing for Metro to do for the community and to promote safety. And I just want to affirm that, and thank you for stewarding this to us today.
Thank you. And if I may, just to follow up, I want to be crystal clear, Councilor Rosenthal and Gonzalez and everyone. Motorized boats will still be available for use. They will require a special use permit process. So they will have the low horsepower size from during the winter season. During the summer season, non-motorized can use it, but if folks want to bring their motorboats, and when the homeowners and the folks on the lakeshore want to use it, we've just set up a special use permit process so we can better manage how and when folks will be accessing.
Great.
So we're going to be retaining a lot of the existing opportunities for the homeowners while increasing opportunities for the public and working through how to have that more organized and structured and transparent, so that the general public wants to request a special use permit for motorized boats too, like how we would review that process. So just want to make sure that's clear, especially for any of our neighbors that are tuning in today and want to offer their thoughts.
Yeah, absolutely. And kayaks and canoes are great, you know. Anyway, yeah, and just also similar to this, but want to emphasize also our need to continue to advance water safety, not only at metro sites and metro parks, but across the region. fatalities and near disasters, I guess you could say, have been growing over the course of the last few years, and it's something that as a council, and I know that your team has really been tracking and emphasizing. So for everyone listening, just remember to practice good water safety.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Gonzalez. Councilor Lewis.
Sure, I just want to speak again in order to acknowledge Counselor Simpson's work on this, and he's not with us today, but he is in general support of moving forward. I just wanted to be sensitive to the fact that he's the one who's done the heavy lifting from council, and he's not with us. So thank you, Counselor Simpson.
Thank you for that. Councilor Rosenthal.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just one quick, somewhat peripheral question. Do either we or in coordination with ODFW, do we stock the lake with fish?
Councilor Rosenthal, yes, Blue Lake is stocked on an annual, regular basis by ODF&W. And they give us a relative window of when they might be showing up, and the folks that fish know definitely when that's happening, and they are out there ready to catch some.
Ready to catch, yeah.
Yes.
Kids love to fish.
Yes. I'm a big kid, I like to fish too. Park is closed right now, though, so the park is closed for some major renovation.
So only staff get to fish.
Yes.
Council might need to take a visit.
We would love to have you all out for a visit. The mayor of Fairview is interested in coming out as well. We had a great Metro 101 mixer, and folks would like to see some of the great construction and work that is going out there. But yes, please coordinate with us so we can do it safely.
Love to see it.
Great.
All right, seeing no other hands raised, I will now move on to the public hearing. Thank you so much, John, for getting us to this point.
Thank you.
I will now open the public hearing on ordinance number 23-1505. Connor, will you please describe to the audience our procedures for the public hearing?
Yes, thank you. So if anyone wishes to testify on ordinance number 23-1505, now is the time to do so. Public testimony will be limited to 3 minutes, and I'll manage the timer to go off at the 3-minute mark. If you've not already signed up to speak, you can do so now. If you're joining us on Zoom, you can sign up by hitting the raise hand button, which depending on your version of Zoom is either at the bottom of your screen or within the reactions tab. For those joining us in person, you can fill out a blue card in the back of the room and bring that up to me. For those joining on Zoom, I'll promote you up to a full panelist, so I'll call your name. You'll see a window pop up asking you to accept that promotion. Once you do so, you'll rejoin and be able to turn on your camera and unmute yourself. As a reminder to everybody testifying today, you do not need to give your physical address. However, please do introduce yourself for the record before testifying. So with that, President Peterson, councilors, we have not had anybody sign up in advance to testify on this item today. And just waiting another couple of seconds for any Zoom or physical hands to go up. And seeing none, President Peterson.
Thank you, and that is a testament to the good work that everybody has put into this, the good faith effort. So thank you, everybody, whether your staff or the folks that have been working through this issue outside of this. So thank you. Seeing no more testimony, I will close the public hearing. There is a second reading for council consideration and vote scheduled for January 4th, 2024. Marisa, did you want to add something?
Yes, thank you, President Peterson. I just wanted to mention, since I don't think that you can see them, that we have a crew of staff who have been working on this from Parks and other parts of the organization in the room today. So just want to acknowledge their presence and their hard work. It's been a long road to get here, and just appreciate the council's support in finding the right path forward.
Yes, ditto. Thank you, everybody. All right, we'll move on to Chief Operating Officer Communication.
Thank you again, President Peterson. Just one item today. As shared during last Thursday's council meeting, the Affordable Housing Bond has far exceeded its expected outcomes. But the pipeline is coming to an end with all Affordable Housing Bond dollars fully committed by 2024. We also know that the governor recently released recommendations for economic revitalization, which included a moratorium on new taxes. This feels like a timely opportunity for Metro to lean in to our role as a regional convener. And I'd like to map out a process which would include convening key regional stakeholders across the region to identify strategies to support the state's affordable housing production goals. If you're supportive of this approach, I'd like to work on the details and desired outcomes with all of you over the recess. So just looking for a nod, thumbs up. Excellent. I'll take that too. Thank you, Councilor Gonzalez. That's all I have today.
Good move, good move.
Thank you.
Thank you for proactive work. All right, Councilor Communication. Councilor Huang, and then Gonzalez.
Great, thank you, Madam President. Just an update on MPAC from last evening. We had a great end of year session. It was short and sweet. We had an update on the buildable lands inventory. And then we were able to hear about the draft Sherwood concept plan, which was a great presentation from the staff from Sherwood. Particularly excited about the zoning and density changes and also the creation of a potential hospitality zone. So looking forward to that. We also wanted to thank Chair Jones-Dixon for his year of service as the chair and leading us through the RTP process at MPAC. And Chair Jones-Dixon will continue on as vice chair for next year. Thank you.
Go ahead, Councilor Gonzalez.
Thanks, President Peterson. Yeah, we had a holly jolly December JPAC meeting this morning. And I wanted to pull up my notes from earlier to provide an update that I shared there on Cascadia High-Speed Rail, which Councilor Simpson has been serving on that policy committee. I also know that you, President Peterson, have also supported that work greatly. But earlier this year, WashDOT, with support from Oregon and British Columbia partners, submitted several grant applications to the U.S. Federal Railroad Administration, the FRA, for the Cascadia High-Speed Rail Program, HSR, as well as improvements to Amtrak Cascades. Last Friday, the Federal Railroad Administration announced that both of these projects were accepted into the Corridor Identification Development Program and will receive $500,000 grant awards to support planning work. While the application was unfortunately not selected for federal-state partnership funding of $198 million, acceptance into the CID, the Corridor Identification and Development Program, means that the project is now part of the federal funding pipeline for future priority intercity passenger rail projects. So anyway, I just wanted to share kind of an update as a major Cascadia project. I know that there's been updates shared at council communications on this before, but just wanted to share what I shared for the record and for anyone that is still watching our meeting. We also had a really wonderful conversation on safety investments. I think nearly everyone on JPAC shared some remarks. Catherine Charlo, Planning and Research Director, and Lake McTighe went through a presentation sharing data dashboards, trends, policies, gaps, and there was just a whole lot of energy around really galvanizing our region to address the funding gaps and then to also work on closing policy loopholes that are unfortunately, we're seeing the numbers trend in the wrong direction for fatal crashes and serious injuries. And then there's also a lot of other information that we're not even tracking with near misses and things like that. So it was really, really heartening. And I think it's continues to just spark the fire in us to work on safety issues in our transportation system. We also had a really nice presentation from Jamie Stasny from Clackamas County on the Sunrise Corridor Visioning Project and the work that they're doing to advance a planning process with a diverse committee to address a whole bunch of multimodal economic development priorities for Clackamas County. And I think we're just really happy that we're able to help elevate that project and support our region's priorities. And so kudos to all the Clackamas County folks working on that project.
Thanks. Councilor Lewis and then Rosenthal.
Sure, thank you. Just a few updates. First, the Clackamas County Business Alliance's annual meeting was yesterday. We are we're a sponsoring level organization. I'm forgetting the technical term for it. But really good plans for next year. There was talk about potentially having 2 forums on transportation, though I would like everybody to mark the date. January 17th will be the legislative forum. I believe we have 9 legislators, all representing parts of Clackamas County, RSVP'd. That's 1/10 of the legislature. I would encourage folks with legislative interest, even if you don't represent Clackamas County, to join me at that event. Second, the Tri-County Planning Body met last night and had a really good meeting in order to start designing the first regional program out of the Supportive Housing Services measure. There's been some tension between consolidation and coordination, and I think we are looking for landlord recruitment and maintenance of landlord relationships to be something that gets done by a single program, not just through coordination of 3 separate programs. So a lot of good tools were used last night. We did not end on time. We did not end with everything with a bow on top, but I think gave good direction to staff to keep working on it. Thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Rosenthal.
A couple items. First of all, I had the opportunity, unfortunately, maybe I'm the last one to, along with Counselor Huang, to visit the airport and look at their new structure that they're building, the new terminal they're building. It's really quite a thing of beauty. It involves a lot of Oregon wood, and it involves a lot of tribal involvement. And it's going to be quite lovely. It's going to open on May 22nd. But there's not going to be a formal thing because the airport's always open. It was also important to learn about their progress, their very proactive progress in developing the South Runway as a seismically resilient runway, which is inconsistent. They have a lot of cooperation from FEMA, and now the question is getting the money and the process going. So that was very important to learn about. On the Sherwood issue, I just want to mention, concur that they are in concert with us in dealing particularly in trying to influence the legislature to deal with the infrastructure issue, particularly the transportation issue, which is one of the big facility problems they face in developing their comprehensive plan. I think we're going to hear more from them. They are being very proactive and very open about what they want. I think it's something that we can support. And so I look forward to trying to get something forward in terms of getting state support for a better infrastructure development, because that's one of the limiting factors. And then finally, I want to mention that there is a meeting this evening. There will be a Metro testimony that we will make. It's held by Senator Frederick and co-chair Nathanson, and it's going to be in Wilsonville. It's going to be about the tolling program, and particularly we'll be making testimony on the importance of allocating some portions of that money for transit as well as diversion mitigation. So that's going to be this evening at the Wilsonville City Council chambers.
Great, thank you. Anything else for the good of the order? All right, seeing no further discussion, the council meeting is adjourned, and our next meeting is scheduled for Thursday, January 4th, 2024 at 10:30 a.m. Have a great couple weeks, holidays, and friends and family. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.